Let's have it.
Well, hello, everybody. We're coming into this podcast. I'm Raul LaRush, by the way, in case you didn't know, everyone. But that's who I am, Raul, like Raul LaRush as a crush. And my good friend, my brother in this whole process. I keep forgetting your name. Who are you again?
Antoine Holman Sr.
Oh, that's right. Why is it so hard for me to remember that name? I guess I'm just me. Anyways, so we just got done. I mean, not only did we were talking, and then we were having technical difficulties, and then Antoine and I started, talking more about other stuff that we talk about. His wife has just published a book. We started talking about her book, and I have ordered a copy of it, so that, was just so excited to get a hold of it, give it to my wife and daughter, because it's a devotional book for women, written by a woman that has learned devotion the hard way, I would say. And then Ramona got on the phone. We hardly ever get to talk. Ramona and I have said hi in passing a couple of times, but she and I got to talking, and well, here we are an hour later. It's just so it's been an interesting morning, folks. It has, from my perspective, on my side of the table. How about you, Antoine? How are you feeling about this morning so far?
Well, I think when things happen I always say things happen for a reason, man. So the time was ordained. You know what I mean? And just the conversations need to be had. There needed to be a break, and I had to say thank you, man, greatly for purchasing my wife's devotional for Anne and Elizabeth, and just thank you, man. I know it's going to benefit them greatly. And again, like my wife was saying offline, how it's basically a mirror of her personal journey, and she's really given a true testimony of the things that she's experienced in this life, and so it's going to touch the lives of women everywhere. Of course, they can purchase it on Amazon. It's called Revival Devotional Journal. And of course, we're waiting on the website lady to come fix the website so she can come open up the store on the website. But it's going to benefit women greatly. We believe this, or it's an anointed journal, and whether a woman is a believer or not, is going to benefit greatly.
Amen.
And again, just thank you again for your support and your family's support with the purchase of the book and just the plugs you've been given, man. Thank you.
My pleasure. It's these are tough times, in so many ways. And I think all of us, and I shouldn't say it's always tough times, but particularly now it just seems like it's so much more like hello. But life is hard. There's no way, shape, or form about it. And some people are blessed to have all kinds of, wonderful things in their lives and have the money to be able to afford all kinds of things. And maybe it doesn't seem as hard for them. I beg to differ, just because, so many people that are rich and have everything they want are still really, really unhappy people. So you look at that and think, okay, so where's the secret? And, the secret is really obvious, right? It's in this card called Jesus Christ, So if you don't take that card out of the stack and say, this is the one I want to play in whatever game we're in, I want to play this card, you're gonna struggle more than you need to. And even when you play that card, it, in some ways, I have thought, when they do like the evangelism tent meetings or whatnot, and they call people to Jesus and, say, come up the front of the stage here and let's, make a dedication to Jesus. And that's all fine and good. I mean, you see people just break down and, really have a moment of transformation. But what I don't hear as often as I think I should is, and understand now you have a target on your back. This is just, you've now entered into the realm of total spiritual warfare. And it is not going to be, you don't become a Christian to have everything be, hunky-dory, rosy for the rest of your life. That's just not how it works. So, but what you do get is a sense of not only eternal salvation, but you also get a sense that as hard as it gets, you got somebody to go to that will always be there for you. Never, ever going to say, I don't have time for you right now. And that's what a lot of people are lacking, right? That you have all the money in the world, but you don't have somebody you can just go to that knows you, that will accept you as who you are, that will whatever. Anyway, so that's been it's been, if there anything that I've been blessed or that I have blessed you with, I have been blessed 14 times over with you guys as well. So it's it goes two ways, man. It goes two ways.
Absolutely.
So, anyways, today what we were going to talk about, what was my idea? Do you remember?
Well, we just want to touch base, man, on the censorship of Representative Al Green, and just the contradicting nature of it, man. It's just very disturbing. Of course, we know when we say what, of course, what censorship is, just basically is a rebuke, a written rebuke against that particular person. But also it's just how contradictory it is, when we talk about, oh, well, we rebuke him because he interrupted the president's speech. We've seen this before with no consequence to others. Of course, going back to Obama's speech when he was talking about, the Affordable Care Act, right? Representative Joe Wilson, President Obama was saying, hey, under this Affordable Care Act, no illegal immigrant will be covered by this insurance. And Representative Joe Wilson, he shouts out, "You lie!" And then, of course, but at the time, the Speaker of the House or the Speaker of the House was Nancy Pelosi, and she said nothing. And then, of course, we see with when President Joe Biden was giving a speech, Marjorie Taylor Greene, just her and that Lauren Boebert, they interrupted him so many times, and speaker at the time was Kevin McCarthy. He said nothing. But here we are, of course, Representative Al Green speaking up against a lie that was being told on national television from the most powerful person in the world. All he said was no mandate. No mandate. And yet, they called the sergeant at arms on him to have him removed. It was just kind of insane.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too. I started doing some research because I do not spend a lot of time doing political research, but when I start doing it, I just pick up right away on a lot of the nuances of the people involved in the whole thing. So, because I felt the same way, that all of a sudden he gets escorted out for actually saying something truthful. I mean, Trump was talking about having a mandate from the people, and Al Green stood up, pointed his cane up, and said, "You do not have a mandate to take away Medicaid." And he wasn't just saying you're a liar. He's saying you don't have a mandate to take away Medicaid, trying to get that subject, that whole plan to the forefront and get people to understand on national television. Right? This is an opportunity to confront one of these lies and get people to think about the consequences of what's going on here. And he gets escorted out for it. So then I started looking at the people in this whole thing. So because we're looking at two different sides of green, there's two different shades of green right here. You got Al Green and you got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who actually spells it with an extra E. I think there was a 3-for-1 sale or something, or 3-for-2 sale the day she was born. They added another E in for free. I
jokingly say that Marjorie Taylor Greene hates the fact that she's part black. Look at her hair. Look at her facial structures. I believe she has black blood.
You never know, right? Wouldn't that be the incredible irony for her? So you look at Al Green, and this is Wikipedia. If you got a problem with Wikipedia, I got to ask you: have you gone to Dunderhead University? Because Wikipedia is by far the most unbiased, patrolled for veracity information sources out there. So, and if you doubt that, do some research on Wikipedia by people outside. It is contributed to by so many different people and edited by so many different people that it is as close to reality as we can get on factual matters like people. Okay, so here's Alexander N. Al Green, born September 1st, 1947, member of the Democratic Party. He served as a justice of the peace in Harris County, Texas from 1977 to 2004. Throughout his tenure, Greene has focused on issues such as abortion rights in the United States and expanding social programs in the United States. And Greene is a member of the United States House Committee on Financial Services, where he's advocated for stronger banking regulations. There's a key, stronger banking regulations and corporate accountability. Now, if you don't think those two things have put some targets on his back, you are sorely mistaken, because that is something you do not do. You don't want to make the bankers ticked off, and you sure as heck don't want to tick off the corporations, because they will come after you with big sticks. So,
of course, those are the very things that they're lifting all these regulations on right now.
Exactly, exactly. So then let's look at the other Greene, okay? Marjorie Taylor Greene, sometimes referred to by her initials, MTG, is an American far-right politician, businesswoman, and conspiracy theorist who has been a U.S. representative for the Georgia's 14th Congressional District since 2021. Greene has promoted anti-Semitic and white supremacist views, including the white genocide conspiracy theory, QAnon, Pizzagate. She has amplified conspiracy theories that allege the government involvement in mass shootings in the United States, implicate the Clinton family in murder, and suggest the attacks were a hoax. Before running for Congress, Greene supported calls to execute prominent Democratic Party politicians, including Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. As a congresswoman, she equated the Democratic Party with Nazis and compared COVID-19 safety measures to the persecution of Jews during the Holocaust, later apologizing for this comparison. During the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Greene promoted Russian propaganda and praised Vladimir Putin, and she identifies as a Christian nationalist. So there you have the two Greenes in terms of, who they are, because we are what we do. Whether or not you can say, I am a kumquat, but if you do not do any of the things that a kumquat does, nor do you look like a kumquat, nor can you be served with other vegetables as a kumquat, you are not a kumquat. So these folks have more than demonstrated who they are by what they have done and what they've said and who they align with. Now let's look a step further, folks. This is our Wikipedia hour here. The areas that they represented. Okay, Marjorie Taylor Greene, we'll stay with her to get the comparison easily. She's represents the Georgia's 14th Congressional District, okay, located in Northwest Georgia. It was created following the 2010 consensus when the state gained a 14th seat on the U.S. House of Representatives with the Cook-Bardason voting index. The district is mostly rural and ex-urban in character. Like most of North Georgia, it has turned almost solidly Republican, while conservative Democrats held most local offices and state legislative seats in what is now the 14th well into the 1990s. Today, there are almost no elected Democrats above the county level. The Democrats have only nominated a candidate in 4 of the 6 elections since the district was created, and with their best result being Sean Harris's 36% in the 2024 election. It includes, there was one other thing I wanted to do. I'll suffice for that. So you get an idea. It's rural, very, conservative. Like you can look at the thing, it looks like a big monster or a Pac-Man in terms of the way that the lines are drawn on it. So eating up all kinds of, radical liberals, I'm sure, as it plugs along. Texas 9th District, which is where Al Greene is from, it includes the southwest portion of the greater Houston area in Texas. And from 1967 to 2005, the 9th covered an area stretching from Galveston through Houston to Beaumont. Much of that area is now 2nd District. Most of the area now in the 9th was the 25th District from 1983 to 2005. So that's been a morphing area too, right? But big difference. Big urban area versus a big rural area. So therein, I guess I don't know that there's statistical correlation here, but it's an interesting fact that you have two very different kinds of representations of people in America right now, and ideologies in America, things that those people accept as truth versus baloney, and their representative is in fact somebody that represents, I would say, people can argue with me if they want, but I would say that they represent people that are very much of the same kind of ilk as who they are in Congress. So the question becomes, who is playing by which set of rules and who is not? Because Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert during Joe Biden's inauguration or State of the Union address was, if you go back and play it, because it's still out there to listen to, they were far more, I'm going to say it, far more disruptive than Al Green was. They were also disruptive in a way that was just hateful, spiteful. I'm going to get in your face and I have no respect for you whatsoever. Just in a, spewing out nonsense, spewing out lies, and acting like, if you saw them during that speech, they were like high school kids sitting in the auditorium while the principal tries to talk about what's going on in, school for the next semester, whatever. It was all they were missing was like smoking doobies and chewing gum and throwing paper airplanes at people. It was that level of behavior. Al Green and juxtaposition of that stands up and makes a statement that is hardcore reality, hardcore, this is what's happening, and challenging lawmakers and the president himself to stop lying and talk about what your real agenda is. So I think, honestly, the biggest problem with that is that Democrats said nothing to support him. Democrats sat there after he got escorted and didn't do anything. In fact, 10 of them voted to censure him, along with the Republicans, after this whole thing to say, naughty Al, naughty. They censured him, which is essentially, just say you were bad and we're going to make sure you get a mark in your folder. I don't remember Marjorie Taylor Greene getting censured. There was a point where she got thrown off a bunch of committees for her conspiracy theories, which made sense because she was just wacko about that stuff and still is. But it's just so indicative of the double standard in our country, and so indicative of the fact that white moderate America continues to just sit back and go, well, he did misbehave. Instead of going, no, yes, he misbehaved. He himself said, I will take the consequences for my actions, gleefully almost, right? I understand that. But he was fighting for something right. He was fighting for something truthful. Versus the people that lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and lie and lie. And we just said, oh, well, there's some truth to what they're saying. And line up with them. I mean, just get back in line, buddy. Hail Trump, get back in line. I just don't get it. Where is the backbone? Where I'm calling on us, white people, folks, we're going to have to put it on the line. It's time for us to stop being moderate and laying around going, oh, gee, that's so bad. He was really being naughty, though. Stop doing that bullshit and saying, no, he was saying the truth. And he got crucified for it. He got escorted out of the chamber like some naughty boy that, needs to be punished now. And he ought to spend some time in detention for speaking the truth. Really? That's what America's standing for right now? And, where are we in this equation? Oh, well, he is a black man. What? What is the rationale? Because Martin Luther King said it himself in the 1960s, shortly before he's killed. He said he's begun to realize that not only is there still a lot of work, but the thing that he was most concerned about was white, moderate America. Because he ultimately wasn't sure that we had the backbone, the cojones, to stand up and do what's right and say, this is not who we are. We are going to be these people. We are holding these truths to be self-evident. we're willing to put whatever we need to down on the line to say no more, no more. And you know, I don't know what to tell you, folks. Given the way things are going, a lot of us might have to die. You know, we might have to take that full measure of devotion. I don't know what to tell you. So maybe that's what we're so concerned about. Oh, I don't want to lose my Toyota. I can't. What would I do without my Toyota? Or, you know, I don't want people yelling mean things at me or hurting me. There might. And Black people have been doing that for a long, long time. They have been putting their lives on the line to fight for what's right. So get with it. You know, get with it, folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
When you, no, you're fine. You just simply, you know, when you look at the distinction between the two Greens, you know, like you gave a great illustration. One is from a pretty much a predominantly white rural area, and one is representing a urban mixed area. And of course, you know, the Bible tells us this. And of course, both of them say they're Christian. One is a Christian, one is a nationalist, because I don't think there's no such thing as a Christian nationalist. You're one or the other. You know, and of course, when we talk about, you know, when the Bible says we'll know them by their fruits, you know, we got to look at the speech. You know, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene's speech, her behavior. Nothing is Christian about that. She does not exhibit not one fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, kindness, patience, long suffering. None of that. You don't see any of that in her behavior or her speech. And then, of course, you know, the things that she speak on, like, you know, like you were saying, those QAnon, you know, things that she support and promote, you know, like the white replacement theory and, you know, space lasers and Jewish people, this and that and the other. But, you know, Al Green on the other side is saying, hey, let's put proper legislation in place to protect the people from the banks, from, you know, the environment, all these different kinds of these corporations that want to kill the planet. Let's protect these things. And of course, the sad part about this, you know, like we were talking about how the bias in treatment, you know, like the gentleman that interrupted President Obama, Joe Wilson, he at least made some, I'm gonna quote, apology, you know, and then of course then we saw, you know, what Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert did, and again it's just it's just that bias in the how way things are went, but also understanding again when we talk about those two people, you know, I say Al Green, he has when we talk about a mandate, right? President just Donald Trump, he said, I have a mandate from the people to cut Medicaid. No, you don't. Because I think even the white rural people that support him is like, hey, whoa, wait a minute. No, well, that's me you're talking about. You know, but understanding that I would say Al Green has a mandate. Because remember when Texas turned down $100 billion for Medicaid. They turned it down simply because they had to pay $10 billion. So what does that tell you? You know, it's like the classism, the racism, because they know that the $100 billion, the $100 billion in Medicaid, who is it going to support? It was going to support the low income, those that may have pre-existing illnesses, and just marginalized and displaced people. And the state of Texas turned that money down. And so, and then Al Green is standing up against those very things. It's like, hey, wait a minute, you mean to tell me you'll support, you know, the cutting of Medicaid to give tax benefits to the richest people in the world, but yet you won't support this to, you know, lift up these low income or marginalized people. And that's where the difference in the two greens lie. You know, one green, the grass is brown and with maybe some green. Look at two different lawns. Right. One is flourishing and one is not. One is you know, is lively and green. One is not so. And that's where, you know, look at, again, the Bible says we'll know them by their fruits, by their speech, by their behavior. And we see the differences again. But like you made another great point, how with Republicans, it's like this. They have been threatened to be in line. They've seen what happens when you disagree with Trump. You start getting phone calls. People start showing up at your door. Depending on who's in place and what area of business you work in, there's someone above you that's gonna, sabotage your business, or shame your name, or they'll what do you call it? They'll have someone run against you in your district to get you out of there if you disagree with him. And they've fallen in line with this threatening approach. And I think that's something that needs to be called out by Democrats. They have to call these things out and let people know, hey, it's okay to say you were wrong. It's okay to disagree, because these very things that he's doing them to you. And one thing you applaud Republicans for is, regardless of what, they're on one accord. They're on one accord with this nonsense. Whether they agree or not, they are on one accord with this nonsense, and they're sticking together, marching down the field, destroying the country. And Democrats, we're nitpicking little bitty different things. We have to, like I say, get backbone in this thing. And you're right. It was sad that there was no support for Al Green, and even with those 10 Democrats that actually voted for his censorship. Now, those centralists, I would probably consider myself to be central, because there's some things I agree with when it comes to spending and all these things, but also at the same time there has to be equity and there has to be inclusion. And so it's just there's a good mix of things. However, in this instance, we are. We need, like how Godfather said, like the movie Godfather, we need wartime consigliaries. We need wartime people that's willing to say, you know what, even though, just like they do on that side, I don't agree, but I'm still with you. Democrats have to be the same way. I didn't agree with that, but I'm with you. And it was disheartening. And at the same time, like I said, with those 10 people, I understand, but I disagree. And it's like at that time, because understand, this man is sitting on national TV telling a lie. And one person, one man says, hey, and he didn't call him a liar or anything. He just said, no mandate. And the thing is, there was nothing, there was no fluff, no filler, there was no lie, there was no inference or anything, just simply calling out a lie, and this is where, we as, I'm a Democrat by default. It is what it is. But and it's like, but we have to stop, this progressive and moderate Democrat stuff. We have to really get on one accord with one message, just like they are. And their whole, and the sad part is their mandate is written in a 900+ page document. And a lot of people refuse to see and look and review or acknowledge that document is real. Oh, he's not going to, or if you see all these executive orders, he's just trying to bypass government as a whole. And then when that executive order is blocked, I'm going to sue. And it's like, that's not how government works. And that's why we talk about this all the time, Raul. People got to come out of their news bubble. People really need to learn and get a better understanding of politics and civics. How the what are the functioning, what are the responsibilities of government? Because if we look and see what's happening in current government, banking regulations are being lifted. Regulations on corporations are being lifted, and this is for the sole purpose to spoil the country. A lot of people ain't going to get it to where they can't. They're going to get it until they can't go to their favorite creek to fish. When the air is so bad, or they start building these power lines and coal burning all over the place, and it's just when we actually tap out, our natural resources, they ain't going to get it until then. One of our friends, we know Serge Koenig, he's a conservationist, for Salt County. He was saying like, hey, and we really got to get it together, because in a few short years, we will be at a point of no return. There is still time to change this thing and look at clean energy and stop this election denying. Well, that's not that part, but what he says. But like, when we say, oh, there's no global warming, there's nothing's wrong with the environment, all these things, we have to stop denying those things and really bring truth to that. So just people have to come out of their news bubbles and see the other side of things. But again, we talked about this before. I hate that you're seeing it real time. A lot of people that have voted for this particular administration, they have regret. They have buyer's remorse. However, they won't say anything because pride won't allow them to say that I was wrong. But the thing is, with this podcast, what you and I are doing, we're giving people a safe space to say, yeah, I was wrong. Right. Now how do we fix this? How do we redeem the time? What can we do? I was wrong because again, lives are gonna be lost, because of medical, like say just like healthcare and things like that is going to be taken away, or it's going to be reduced so greatly that you basically just only coverage you're going to get is a new toothbrush. Yeah. It's sad, and so but that's where we're trying to sound this alarm, and I'm glad that Representative Al Green said, hey, no mandate, because again, if people really look at if you like say again, people in their news bubbles, all people will hear, is that, I have a mandate from the people. No, if you research that, you'll see what is the context of it and what's behind it. And hey, he's going to cut your Medicare. And in some way, shape, or form, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security affects everyone in this country. That is why Elon Musk has got access to the treasury, so he has access to everything and everyone who receives what, and then of course we give access to that information from hackers. A hacker collective has access to our personal documents, our living life documents. So anything can be manipulated, and within this hacker collective that has access to our things, these people have connections to Russia. And it's like, do you get what is happening here? The country is being torn apart from within, because I think they're going to pillage the country and move on. Because if we look at South Africa, this is what's happening. Of course, the oligarchs of South Africa, the Elon Musk and the other guy that supports, that is J.D. Vance's money guy, those are two South Africans. Yes, they bled South Africa, the resources, everything is a mess. And so now what do? They say, white South Africans are being oppressed. White South Africans are being oppressed. And so now we need to make them refugees. So Donald Trump signs an order to make white South Africans refugees. And people need to go and look at this throughout the world. There was a lot of white South Africans just been gained citizenship in Germany and other areas of the country, other areas of the world, because they say, they're being white South Africans, mind you, are being oppressed, is the language. And so again, coming out of our news bubbles to get both sides of the story and really get to the truth. But at the end of the day, we always say, you and I, hey, what does the Bible say about it? Mm.
I always go back, all the time we've been talking about this, I keep thinking of the Man of La Mancha, theater guy, right? And Man of La Mancha it's the story of Don Quixote. It's loosely based on that novel. And he has one of the most memorable songs in theater musical history, The Impossible Dream. And one of the lyrics of that has always kind of typified who Don Quixote is, who the spirit of Don Quixote is. He says, to fight for the right without question or pause, to be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And there is such a difference between Al Green fighting for the right without question or pause. He didn't have a moment's hesitation when he stood up and said, you do not have a mandate to take away Medicaid. Without question or pause, and he was willing to march into hell. He was willing to stand up and make that statement in spite of the hell that it was going to cause him by daring to stand up in the middle of the president's address and say something so truthful that folks, what is it going to take? At what point will we say no more? This line you shall not cross. There's an old Shakespearean saying of going beyond the pale. It was an old English phrase. Beyond the pale meant to do something so far beyond what's right and civil and civilized and proper. So far beyond that, there's no words for it, right? It's just so abysmally abhorrent and horrible to be beyond the pale. And I gotta tell you, we are beyond the pale. We are beyond the pale. We are like in the end zone, behind the end zone, behind the end zone of the pale. So at what point do we start saying, okay, time to march into hell for a heavenly cause? Because we're building a hell. We're allowing hell to be built around us. And it's not a Democrat-Republican thing. It's not a white and black thing. It is a have and have-nots. The oligarchs, the people that have all the money, the 1/10 of 1%. You don't realize that they complain about we pay most of the taxes, right? We pay 45% of the taxes. Like that's some sort of, we're so wonderful for paying that. The reason that they pay 45% of the taxes is because they make so freaking much money. The people that are in that 1/10 of 1%, 175,000-ish households make more money than 77 million people at the other end of the spectrum. 175,000 versus 77 million households. What does that tell you? And those are the people that have the green lawns with the flowers and the perfectly manicured, hedges and everything. Oh, it looks so wonderful. They are too uncomfortable. They do not like having to live next to a lawn that looks like a poor person's lawn does. Who can't afford a lawnmower, sure as heck can't afford fertilizer, would like to plant some flowers, but the best they can come up with is the dandelions that grow. They can't even afford to water their lawn, okay? Those are those people. They don't want to live next to them. They don't want to be reminded of them. They want them to go away. So what better way? Pull their Medicare, pull their Social Security. They'll all starve. They'll all die. Fantastic. We'll be in power forever because all of those pesky poor people will be gone. So it's haves and have-nots. The haves are not on our side. Whether they're Democrat or Republican, they are not on our side. This is going to be the people that really are being hurt, white, black, brown, it doesn't matter. We're all being hurt that are in the 77 million class. So we have to stop all this baloney of allowing them to turn us into enemy camps with one another based on our race, based on our religion, based on whatever, that they come up with that. That's why you don't have, because those Muslims are doing all the nasty. I mean, come on, really? Those Muslims are fighting as much as anyone else. We've got a gentleman that was leading some of the protests with the pro-Palestinian protests at one of our universities, and he's in a detention center right now with an 8-month pregnant wife that because he was a leader or one of the organizers of those protest organizations. So they just came in the middle of the night, took him away. So this is all over, right? This injustice, this hell that's being created. So I put it out to you, anyone who's listening, and please share the podcast with others to hear, what's the call to arms? At what point will we say this is enough? Time to march into hell for a heavenly cause. Because otherwise, it is going to be too late. Not only for our environment, it's going to be too late for our culture, for America, for the democracy. It really is that serious. We can't afford to be talking about, nonsense and being, distracted by, Trump talking about the Gulf of America. excuse me, or, annexing Greenland, buying Greenland and annexing Canada, taking back the Panama Canal. I mean, all those things are distractions. So, if he wants to, go at it. You want to call it the Gulf of America. That's chicken feed compared to the stuff we need to stop. So let's stop being distracted and, focus on the things that need to be focused on. The rest of it takes care of itself over time. Because we're wasting way too much energy on the wrong stuff.
Yes. And and it's like, and it's funny how, like, when you make that call out, how, like, the richest percent of the country is saying, oh, we're paying 40% of the taxes in the country. Yeah, because you make more money. It's just that simple. And of course, and what we have to really, really grasp and really slow down and listen to is, like, the wording of these things, because when you say it in that context, simply, hey, we're paying 40-something% of the country's taxes, a low-minded person will say, wow, that's a good point. And it's like, but no, everybody pays their full share. Well, I guess I can't remember the exact percentage of, okay, your state taxes, your federal taxes, your Social Security, those things. What do they come to of your income? 27%, whatever it is. If everybody's doing the same thing, yes, you are going to pay more. But again, it's like, we have to, and that's all we've been trying to say. Everybody pay their fair share. But of course, the richest of the richest, what are they doing? They're hiding their money in other countries. I was reading something, and it was like a lot of rich people say, we don't keep our money in America anymore. and that's so they're getting a double tax relief in a sense, and like you said, we can't look at what this hand is doing while these things are going on behind the back, or what the other hand can't see. And you're right. It's like we do have to march down to hell for a heavenly cause. For everything everything needs to be more equitable, and that's all Black people or people of color actually want. Make things even, equitable, and of course, yes, the history has to be acknowledged as to why we're at such a disadvantage. You can't whitewash the history. You can't take it away. You can't say, oh, those people, they love slavery, or they just are lazy and not willing to work, or this and that and the other. We got to get the full context of the story of the country in order to make sound decisions moving forward. Like, even like, say, just with the acknowledgement of DEI, of course, those powers that be, they just simply hate that young white America says, hey, wow, I did not know that. We were at a few years ago. I don't know if you were at the Empower Bearable event, and when we had an intermission, of course, Mr. Percy Brown and Dr. Rainey Briggs were facilitating and doing that teaching. And one thing, like a lot of the white people in the room, they were shocked to learn something so simple as that when after World War II, like when they talk about the GI Bill, none of the Black soldiers got it. They were like, wow, we didn't know that they didn't get it. And so, but again, those are the things that people need to know, because again, it's like get the full context of the story of the country, and that's what they're trying to block. And then, of course, with what's going on, the rich are getting richer, but I just, in my heart, what I believe and what I see, I believe that the richest of the rich, they're going to, I hate using that RAPE word, they're going to pillage the country, bleed it dry, like South Africa, and move to somewhere else. Or just they're going to stay on their high heels where, pollution and things like that aren't affecting them. And so it just, like you say, we have to fight. And it's like we can't fight. It's almost like you can't fight back. You got to fight forward. It's like we have to just say, hey, okay, the information that we have, we're gonna push it forward. And of course, there's the threatening tone of the president and how if you speak up, there's going to be a million people at your door. We have to fight through those things because again, it's like they're trying to muzzle us. They're trying to censor us in the public, so to speak.
Yeah, in a big way.
And so, we just, like you said, brother, we just, we have to fight. And there's as Christians, I'm so sad. I'm just angry. I'm just gonna say it. I'm angry at what some of the churches are preaching. They preach that this person is the second coming, and I'm like, this. No, Trump has not exhibited not one fruit of the spirit, not one. But yet you saying, oh, he's a Christian, he's for us, he's this, that, and the other. It's like, no, he is not. And then, like the Bible tells us, many will be deceived. So it's like, please, my prayer is like, Lord, open their spiritual eyes and spiritual ears that they may see. Because again, people are fighting, the underlying tone of this whole thing is race, power, and money. That's it. And, and I just think, people have bought into the white replacement theory and just they're fighting hard to they'll rather burn this down than there be equity. And it's so many little things that are going on in this country that people just don't know about. Like, college campuses can't be influenced by race anymore, but legacy still exists. And when we talk about legacy, who does that pertain to? Well-to-do white people. But giving a person Harvard, getting them a partial scholarship to Harvard, yeah, partially because he's black. No, that's getting them. That's giving too much. That's affirmative action. Blah 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 blah. It's just we really have to watch the wording and what is being said and what is being spewed out. And again, it comes from people coming out of their own news bubbles, coming into a neutral place. Okay, I hear you. But now, what does the Bible say? How is what both of y'all saying affecting me? Who is on my side? That's what we got to get to.
Isn't it amazing? It took decades, literally decades of time to make the kinds of progress that we had made in equity, inclusion, all those diversity, which has like always been such a weird thing to me. That how did we turn diversity, inclusion, how did those things get turned into bad? How is trying to have equity bad? How is trying to include people, make sure that everyone feels included? Women, too, right? How is trying to promote diversity, which is what we are as a nation? We are a diverse nation. Give me your hungry, your poor, your yearning to be free, your wretched refuse, yearning to be free. It's on our Statue of Liberty. It's on our Statue of Liberty, okay? We are a country that asked for, welcomed, pleaded for the wretched refuse that was yearning to be free. And that's who made up this country. And it took weeks to rip away progress that was made towards achieving what the American dream is. You want to talk about making America great again? Let's get that Statue of Liberty to be a truthful statement and not something that sounds nice. Because that's where white moderate America gets stuck a lot of the time. From what I see, is we get stuck with something that sounds nice, like, all the things that are going to happen that are going to be bringing wealth back to America. But yeah, well, we're going to bring that wealth back to America by firing a whole bunch of you guys that are sucking off the taxpayers' money. Wow. Wow. Fantastic. We're going to get rid of all the diversity, inclusion nonsense that's been all our government programs. We're going to take it off all of our websites. There aren't going to be any celebrations anymore in the military of any kind of exclusive groups that are being promoted because of their individual pride and history that should be made known to others, expose it to others. Getting rid of all that stuff. Wow. And they're getting rid of it because we did not march into hell for the heavenly cause yet. So we already went way over time. I'm so sorry. We still did I don't know, almost.
We still didn't talk about J.D. Vance's nonsense. Let's get to that another time.
Yeah, oh boy. Well, And Elon Musk, we probably need a week's worth of talking on Elon Musk and his, this tweet, X quote from earlier this week that Hitler never killed anybody. It was public sector employees that did it. And I'm like, what, like garbage men came out and killed Jews? Was that your public sector employee? Like office workers came out and did that? It's like, yeah, well, if some of the people that were part of the Nazi regime at that point were public sector employees, I'm not going to argue the nuances of that syntax. What I'm going to argue is that it wasn't like Hitler was saying, boy, what are those public sector employees doing? I can't believe that that's just wrong. Well, on to supper.
The demonization of federal employees to kind of justify what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's like in public sector employees back in World War II, what were they doing?
Yeah.
It was not a whole lot going on. I wouldn't say that, but it's like there's half as much going on then as it is now. So and again, that's why you ask most of the country, hey, does that make sense to you? Yeah.
The days that I never even dreamed that there would be days where we would start to say, that Hitler wasn't all so bad. But that's what's happening. Anyways, so I'm Raul Brush, and you fine young man are
Ed for Home and Senior.
And together we are Frame of Reference coming together. And I hope this gets some of you to come together and have some discussions with folks. And, please, put comments on the website at FORSAUK4SOC.com, Frame of Reference Sauk County. And, this is an open forum. We are willing to see where we're wrong, and we're hoping you're willing to do the same. Because that's how everybody learns. Okay? Until next time, dude, right? Take care, folks. Thanks for listening.